Okay.
All right. Looks like we're in long range studies. Back once again, Stephen Follett with Thunderbird Long Range.
Randy
And
Galvin with LRS Precision.
all right. So we talked about before kind of the ballistic differences between a couple of or a few short actions. The 6.5 Creed and the 308, just kind of going through and giving everybody an introduction, the what's and whys. But one of the big questions that we get is what caliber should I shoot? Or just a breakdown between, hey, which should I shoot, the 6.5 or the 308? So whatever the question uh, comes up, there's always so much, because if somebody says, "Hey, I'm down between a 6.5 and a 308," somebody else is always going to chirp in, well, why not a 243? Or, sometimes you get a 270 Winchester. So there's always lots of arguments and consideration online. Lots of uh, anger's been taken out on keypads trying to convince people to go one way or the other. So where do you start, Randy? If someone comes to you, not online maybe, but just somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to start shooting long range. I've seen it and you've talked about it. Where should I go?"
So first thing I do is I've got some questions for them. I'm going to find out exactly how far they want to shoot, if they're just solely planning on doing targets, or if they want to kind of mix it as a target gun and a hunting rifle, stuff like that, because those all play a big role in it. And then another thing is whether or not they reload.
Yeah. Okay. So let's cover that first one. Why does it? Why would you ask how far they're going to shoot?
So for that, if someone's planning on only shooting 200-300 yards, then honest, and some people do think to them that that's long range. When I've talked to people, it really at that point doesn't matter what caliber you go with. Pretty much anything will get you out to 300 yards. If you're talking someone who's been shooting for a while and they want to start reaching out even farther, 1,000 yards, 1,500 yards, even out to 2,000 yards, all that's going to drastically affect what caliber would be best suited for that. Other stuff's going to be how often are you going to shoot at what distance. Like if you have a range that you're close to you that goes out to 500 yards, and once a year you're going somewhere with a 1,500-yard range, you aren't going to necessarily want a caliber that's dedicated to shooting out to 1,500 yards every weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's say, for example, there's lots of guys that the max range that they can get is 500 yards. So where would you start off the conversation? I just going to shoot steel and paper out to 500 yards.
For that, then I would ask if they reload or not.
Mm-hmm. Let's
What
just assume that they don't reload. That at this point they're just going to go factory, just to keep the variables simple.
Okay, so if you're just going factory for something like that, I usually tell them to look at 308, 6.5 Creedmoor, something like that, because you can usually get a rifle with a proper twist on it. You can even go 6 Creedmoor if you don't mind ordering ammo online. I like when I was shooting factory stuff, I would like to be able to go just run down to either the local gun store or Walmart or something and be able to pick up some ammo for it. Pretty much Walmart now, pretty much every gun store is going to have 6.5 Creedmoor, so you can just kind of decide, hey, it's 4:30 on Friday, I want to go shooting Saturday. You can run to the store and buy ammo. And that's what a lot of your newer shooters tend to do. They don't necessarily plan, a lot of people don't plan out weeks or months in advance like we do for matches.
Mm-hmm.
To have the ammo on hand. Then you've also got people who can don't mind ordering ammo online. I know guys who order a couple thousand rounds of ammo online. So there's that. The other thing I'll tend to ask people is whether or not they want a bolt action rifle or a semi-auto rifle.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that gives you a few there are different caliber considerations for it. Like if you're going bolt action, you could consider a 260. You can find some ammo online for that. Whereas in a semi-auto, a 6.5 Creedmoor would be the better round just because of magazine length, and that's where you've got to look at stuff for that too.
Yeah, whether it's gas or not.
Yeah.
Now, one caliber that you didn't mention that I would throw in there is 223.
Yeah, 223 for 500 yards is a good one. A lot of people don't think of that as a long-range cartridge. I have a bolt-action 223 that I regularly shoot out to almost 1,000 yards.
Yeah. So even with the
hand-loaded ammo, though.
Yeah, I think Savage has Model 12 and Model 10. I think they sell those in 9-twist.
Right.
So with a 9-twist, that's going to shoot a lot of common ammo. It's going to shoot your 55 grains decently well. Most of the ones that I've seen and talked with guys, those Model 10s and 12s, I've seen them all under an MOA with decent ammo, and it'll shoot up to the low 70s, depending upon the ammo and that
usually I haven't really had much luck past like the upper 60s on a 1.9 twist. And that's usually the only issue you run into, and that's another thing when you're talking to someone about what kind of gun they're going to be shooting. If they're going ground up, I want to build a rifle and set it up exactly how I want it. 223 is great. I've got one. Mine's throated for 80 grain bullets.
Yeah.
But
no, you can. Yeah, you can do that. A lot of it depends upon where you're shooting. I mean, a little bit higher elevation, you're going to be able to do the 70s, and it again, that's kind of barrel specific. If you have a longer barrel, getting the velocity, then you'll be able to spin it. But that's kind of the upper end.
Right, and that's where you see a lot of stuff coming into being more popular in competition versus hunting is the way the barrels are designed. 243 is a good example of that. It's a 6mm cartridge. You can shoot different grain bullets, but you don't see it nearly as often in competition as you do a 6 Creedmoor. Everyone, for some reason, thinks 6 Creed. Everyone's read the stuff people say about Creedmoor this, Creedmoor that. Everyone's making fun of it. But it's really a combination of you've got good ammo with high BC bullets, and you've got the barrel twist that is designed for that, because a lot of the hunting 243 stuff out there has got a slower twist for lighter grain varmint bullets.
Yeah, or just hunting,
hunting in general.
Deer ammo, that's what a lot of Hornady sells a ton of that. The American Hunter, is that what it's called? The Whitetail Hunter.
Yeah.
But so that's something that guys will ask about. Well, hey, I've got a 243, I've got a 260, I've got whatever. In that conversation, you can certainly take a slower twist 243 and shoot it out to 500 yards.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You can certainly do that, and if your max is 500 yards and you're good with that, then you can do that. What you were getting at is there's a lot of limitations on the factory loaded ammo that's going to be of a quality to really shrink your groups, to really shoot at a higher level of precision.
Exactly.
You said it, but I just want to repeat it. Almost any center fire, if it can hold one MOA at 100 yards, you're going to be able to hit a pie plate at 500 yards, even with a variation in velocity, simply because if you can hold an MOA and squeeze the trigger, press the trigger correctly, and you've got the dope for it, one MOA at 500 yards is roughly 5 inches. And if you go to a pie plate, you're 8 to 10 inches. And so that gives you some variation in both wind and the velocity of ammo. Some are faster, some are slower from the cheap white box stuff. So within 500 yards, if you can shoot one MOA, you could be hitting a 10-inch circle 90% of the time if you can make the wind call and you have your dope right.
Oh
with
yeah,
basically
absolutely.
any center fire rifle. If you want to get to a higher level precision, then you do something more. And also one of the things is if it's a sporter barrel with a pencil barrel, a thin barrel, you're just limited in the length of the strings that you can shoot. Maybe two or three
Yeah,
before the
and
barrel starts
that's
heating up and moving.
that's honestly, we could do a whole video
Yeah.
just
So,
on that, and I'm
but
sure we
that's
will.
but that's where we look at. You could take whatever center fire rifle you have and just go out and start shooting it within 500 yards. So your limit is is you don't have as much of a limit on your choices. So now let's start to talk into hey, I'm going to shoot to 800, 900 yards, into that range. So now what are you talking to people about getting? And I think this gets more specifically to your point about now you've got to buy a barrel that is specifically has a twist rate and a throat and is designed to shoot long range.
Right.
Because you can buy a 260, which is nearly identical to this 6.5. But if you buy a 260, it's going to be set up as a hunting rifle for the most part. Whereas if you buy a 6.5, it's designed with an 8 twist. 260s or nines and higher number twists, so they don't shoot the high CBC bullets. And when you go buy ammo, it's going to be it's
Like
not going to
Winchester
be
Core
ammo.
Lock or something like
Yeah,
that. That's what you're
it's
going to be
not going to
talking
be. There's not as much ammo designed for that. Now, Prime and others have started to do that, but you've got the barrel isn't designed and set up for long range for the most part, and then you've got the factory ammo limitations. So this is when you start to get into, hey, I want to shoot this far. That the idea that, hey, you need to start looking at something like the Ruger Precision Rifle because it has the barrel twists designed for long range shooting for the long high BC bullets, right?
about.
So that's so hit into that when you're talking to somebody and you're walking them through those questions with that background.
Yeah, so and you pretty much covered all the major points on that. Again, it's
Let's
gonna
jump into the specifics. Some of the bullets and some of the cartridges that you'd recommend.
yeah, for that, I mean, I tend to like a 6 millimeter, so I would typically recommend a 6 millimeter, either Bergara or RPR for somebody wanting to do that if they're not going to be doing any kind of hunting. The 6.5 if they're more concerned with being able to just go to the store and buy
Mm-hmm.
ammunition. You can shoot 308 at those distances. I know a lot of people make the argument of 308's a military round and they can get it anywhere. I don't personally think that's a great argument because I can go to any store that sells 308 and buy 6.5 Creedmoor.
Yeah,
And then
it
six,
used to be much more true, but now I've seen where 6.5 match ammo is less expensive than 308 ammo.
oh
Like
yeah,
the
and
same, like the same match. So a box of Hornady match
yeah,
versus a box of uh, Hornady match of 6.5 and 308. They're the same price, or the 6.5 is cheaper. So to
yeah,
some
and
extent, that's
and it really has. I mean, unless they want just to be able to go buy bulk military ammo, and in
yeah,
that case, it's not that's not long range ammo.
yeah.
It's
It's not. It's
it's
not. I wouldn't
designed.
use it for the what we're talking now, the 800, 900, 1,000
No,
yards.
absolutely not. That stuff is meant for a battle rifle. Your SDs are probably close to 100 on that ammo, to honestly. Especially the surplus stuff from like the 60s and that's still out there, pretty inexpensive.
Yeah. So
Uh,
inside 1,000, you're really talking about the 6 millimeter and the 6.5 millimeter is kind of that sweet spot, right?
yeah. And again, if someone doesn't reload, it would be the Creedmoors that I would personally recommend. But that lets you get into a whole nother topic of there are so many different 6 millimeter cartridge variants. There are so
Yeah.
many 6.5 cartridge variants, and if you do reload, it makes it a little bit easier. But if we're
Yeah, the
talking,
world. The world's open to you at that point.
Yeah,
But
but we're
for
also talking buying a factory gun right now, so
yeah,
you've got to
so
think.
factory gun, factory ammo, you really are talking, uh, and it's not the Kool-Aid, but the 6.5 Creedmoor was just designed to do that.
It
And
was, and it
Hornady
was.
was just the marketing. Hornady is a marketing machine.
Yep.
They came out with it in 2007. Uh, Lapua came out with the 6.5 by 47 in 2005. Essentially the same thing, and some would argue easier to load for and better than the 6.5 Creedmoor. But
Right.
and
And
Lapua
honestly,
came out with that because it does things that the 260 doesn't. So it's not
exactly.
really a 260 versus 6.5 Creedmoor. It's a 260 doesn't do what you want to from a long range rifle, right?
Right.
Without
And
reloading, without the
right.
factory. And so
Yeah, and there's also from a marketing standpoint, you don't want to start making stuff for the 260 or the 243 that's designed as match ammo, because there are a lot of people who have a rifle that they take out once a year to go hunting, maybe go zero it, and they don't really understand all the intricacies to what bullet works, what doesn't. So if you start
yeah, they
trying to
might go to Walmart and buy a 243 running a 105, hybrid or a 115 and think, oh, I'm going to shoot this out of my rifle. It can't be much different than the 100 grain, American whitetail that
exact
I'm shooting. And
right,
then it
exactly.
keyholes it
Or
at 100 yards.
right, or you get the same, or you can get it on the opposite side of that. Someone buys a match gun in, we'll say 260 or we'll say
Yeah.
243 just to keep it simple, because that one's pretty popular. And they go to the store and they just grab a box of 243. Their gun's set up for 105 grain match bullets because it's a match gun, and they're buying like 75 grain varmint
Yeah.
bullets, and they're like, why doesn't my gun shoot these good?
Yeah.
So they think they're the problem with the gun. So from a marketing standpoint, that's why they've marketed certain calibers for precision match shooting versus hunting. It's really not something you want to cross between the two.
Yeah. So from all those perspectives, but that's why the 6.5 Creedmoor, that's why the 6 Creedmoor, and really the 6.5 Creedmoor is kind of the do it all. It's got the little bit heavier bullet. It's just a good balance between that.
It,
But you're right. I like shooting the 6 millimeter, so I would go. I don't know. If it was just me and I was just out shooting, I'd probably just still go 6.5 because I can get maybe 1,000 more rounds before I burn out the barrel.
yeah, and
That's
that's
one
another.
thing to consider.
Yeah, and that's definitely something to look into. Also, is barrel life, because you will
Yeah.
get more barrel life from slower, bigger bullets.
Yeah. So if you want, hey, I don't want to have to mess with this, but I want to shoot a lot, then a 308 is great for that. Get a 308. You won't have to rebarrel. Uh, you have to shoot a lot to shoot out a 308. You
Yeah.
know, depending upon how hard and hot you run it. A Creedmoor might go 3 or 4,000. How hot and hard, your 6.5 or your 6 Creedmoor might go, 1,500 to 3,000. It's kind of it varies from barrel to barrel and how hard you run it and what
Yeah.
what you're running. So, but that's one other thing to consider. And I do like those cartridges. We've been focusing on all short action cartridges.
Yep. Yeah, and that's a good point too, and that kind of brings me into the next part when you're choosing a caliber for someone new. Let's say, and I'll let you answer some of the questions on this. If some new guy comes up to you and asks, "Hey, I want to get a new rifle. I don't know what caliber I'm going to get. I want to shoot targets out to 1,000, 1,200 yards, but I also want to use it for hunting,
Yeah.
for
So
elk."
yeah, so I would ask them, well, how far do you really think you're going to shoot the elk? And then from there, I go back to, well, you need a big enough bullet for the job, and then you need to make sure that that bullet is traveling the appropriate velocity at the range at which you want to hunt to perform. And so every bullet manufacturer is going to say this bullet will perform down to 1,600 feet per second. right? Or 1,200 feet per second, or 1,400 feet per second, right? A lot of these long range bullets are designed to open at lower velocities, right? But you just pick the bullet within the range that you're going to shoot, practically shooting, and with that the bullet will do its job. There's guys that go out and shoot elk with the 6.5 Creedmoor, and they do it at, you know, extended yardage that I wouldn't shoot an elk at, and that I certainly wouldn't choose a 6.5 Creedmoor. But it happens. Hunting is about shot placement and those other things, but that's what I would suggest to them is find that range and find those details and do the math and decide, if I shoot this bullet at this and it's impacting at this velocity, then will the bullet expand and perform to take game ethically? So if it was me and you're inside, 300 yards, 400 yards, 6.5 Creedmoor is gonna do the job. 308 is gonna do the job. I wouldn't go with a 6 mm, but that's the math. I know guys that do. I know my buddy, his dad's first few elks were taken with a 243. Not to say that it can't be done. It's bullet placement, but you look at that size, and then you can say, well, do you want to go up? Because you could jump up to a 30-06 and some other things, but then you get back into is the rifle designed to shoot long range? Is the twist the right twist? And can you buy the long range ammo for it without reloading? So there, I think you're stuck with things like, 300 Win Mag, a 7mm Remington, Magnum. You can buy specialty ammo if you're willing to order offline, 6.5 284. But again, Hornady, being the marketing geniuses that they are, they've pushed out the 6.5 PRC and the 300
that's
PRC.
A great. Yeah, I really like the 6.5 PRC.
And so
in fact,
this is why
that's a 6.5 PRC right there on the shelf behind me.
That's awesome. So the thing with the 6.5 PRC is that Hornady pushes it and markets it so that lots of people want it and lots of people buy it. And as soon as that happens, then Hornady makes money, and Winchester can start making bullets for it, and Remington and Norma and everybody else. They can jump on the bandwagon just as much and sell the rifles and everything else. So Hornady is just pushing these, but what you get is a 6.5 in a short action.
Right, or long action.
Or long action. But
yeah, I built this one for a customer. This one's a short action. I've got another one that I'm waiting on parts to get here for. That's going into a long action. There are some magazines.
Yeah. And those are choices, but again, when you're talking long range shooting and hunting, there's no other big mass marketed 6.5. Really, there's the 6.5 by 284 Norma.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been marketed as much, and so people don't know about it.
Right.
Hornady's the one willing to spend the money and do those things to push it out there. Right or wrong, but that's what they do. And so the 6.5 284 or 6.5 PRC is a great long range round. Your barrel life is shorter than a 6.5 Creedmoor, simply because you got more powder and more velocity. You've got the 300 PRC, right?
Yeah, that thing's a monster.
Yeah, and the thing with those are, if you buy a rifle that's chambered in 6.5 PRC and you go buy any factory rifle and any factory ammo, they're going to be fairly well compatible.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to shoot long range without any question. If you buy a 300 Win Mag with a fast twist, there's a lot of ammo that you can't use off the shelf.
Yep.
Or if you buy it with a slow twist, like 10 or something, then there's a lot of bullets that you're not going to be able to shoot. But so that's the genius behind what Hornady's done in those 6.5 PRC and the 300 PRC is that the factory barrel matches the ammo. Of course, if you're a hand loader, what does that do to the equation, Randy?
Oh, that opens it way up.
You can do anything you want to, because then you can buy a barrel, a 308 barrel, in a 9 twist and or an 8.5 or
Yeah.
8.5 or whatever, and you can have your gunsmith chamber in whatever you want, a Wildcat, whatever. So if you hand load, then you can say, well, what other guns do you have? What bullet do you want to shoot? What brass? What velocity? And you can drill down a lot more.
Oh, yeah, there's so much you can do with that. I mean, we both hand load, and that's why I think we both, for our competition stuff, we both shoot calibers you cannot go to a store and buy loaded ammo.
Yeah.
They're very, I think my company, and I'm not sure if anyone else makes 6XC ammo. I think
Probably not
Copper Creek
because
probably does,
yeah, some of the custom
but
ones do.
but there's
But the
no
thing is,
there's no big factory ammo available for it.
no, because people who choose it are already going to hand load.
Yep.
They know they're going to hand load, so they'll choose what will work for them. And so, but guys who would otherwise shoot the 6XC, but they want to be able to buy ammo, what do they buy? The 6 Creedmoor.
Yeah.
Because it's
And they're
practically identical.
Yeah, they really are. They're really similar. There are some advantages reloading for the 6XC. It's a little bit more. It's a little more efficient cartridge, but
A little bit more efficient, a little bit more forgiving, but
there's not. There's not. I wouldn't say one is better than the other.
no, it's not something that you'd say, oh, I don't want to give this up. And so I'm going to have to hand load instead of buying factory ammo because
Right.
it's so little difference. If you want to buy factory ammo, then you just go 6 Creed.
Yep.
I think 6 Creedmoor, is you look at the PRS, what people are shooting at, 6XC, and I know a lot of people are shooting 6 Creedmoor.
Yeah,
It's
there's
just
a lot of
not
people
that big of a
shooting.
difference.
Yeah, both of those. And then you've got your 6 Dashers, 6 BRs getting pretty popular now.
6BR, 6BRA, 6BRX, all
And
those.
those are neat little rounds. And for someone who reloads, they save you a lot of powder.
Yeah.
Because I think they're running about in the 30s for powder for 30
I
grains.
haven't reloaded or looked at the data on that.
Yeah, I want to say the BR.
Well, 6XC's in the high 30s.
I'm in the 40s, but
Yeah. Well, you can push into the 40s, but I run a slower load, but
Yeah.
I'm close to 40. I'm right at 39, but
yeah,
at any rate, so that's where we're choosing. And so if you had a 6.5 Creedmoor and most of your shots were, in the 1,000, 12, even 1,200 yard range, how far out could you shoot? Let's say you just wanted to shoot as far as you could. How far out could you go with, say, a 308, a 6.5 Creedmoor, and a 6 Creedmoor, just because they're representative, or let's say 6XC, because I don't want to repeat Creedmoor again. And
yeah, I mean, I know people who have shot a mile with all 4 of those cartridges. The 308's dropping off a lot. You're going to need a lot of elevation to get that far with it. It's
factory barrel, factory ammo.
Right.
Which of the 3 would you choose if somebody said, hey, you got to be as precise as possible at a mile? Which one are you going to choose?
Probably the 6.5 Creedmoor. I might choose a 6XC.
How windy is it? Is the question. Right? Because if you've got no wind, I'd go with the 6. But if you get wind, I think the 6.5 a little bit weightier.
At that distance, yeah. And then the other thing is just being able to see the impact.
Yeah. So
even at 1,200 yards, we had target indicators last weekend, and so I could see when I hit the target with a 6 mil, but you could not see you really couldn't see any splash or anything at 1,200 on steel with a 6mm.
Yeah, past 1,000, you start to get into that one. So, but yeah, so that's the thing is most people in most applications, they're going to be able to shoot as far as the ranges available to them will do that.
Oh,
right.
Absolutely.
So you can shoot out to a mile. Now, if you want to, the crazy thing is, as people understand ballistics more, you might think, oh, if I shoot a 300 Win Mag, it can outshoot a 6.5 Creedmoor. Right. But what's the truth about that?
In what way?
Yeah.
Is it going to have more energy on target?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but
Is it more?
ballistically, the curve as the bullet flies and the elevation, right? They're not that dissimilar.
No, and really, and the way technology has changed now, it caliber doesn't matter. You've got the ballistic computers, you've got the charts, you've got the apps, the different things to tell you what to do. It really takes a lot of it out, a lot of the work out of
A lot
it
of
to
the
where,
guessing out. Yeah.
yeah. So really, what you're worried more about is your wind call. That's what really affects stuff now. I mean, you got you got a lot of competitions shooting well past a mile now. It used to just be king of the 2 mile. Now you've got ELR stuff starting to pop up fairly regularly throughout the
Yeah.
country.
So, but anybody shooting, you can pick up a short action cartridge like a 6.5, and you don't have to go much bigger than that to shoot a lot of long range and to go out. So I guess that's it. Is to dispel that myth. If you want to get a Magnum, a 300 RUM or a 300 Win Mag, then yeah, you can push it past. You can push it past a mile, and you can be a little bit better on the wind call and everything else. And if you want to shoot a big Magnum, then that's cool. You can
But
you
your
can
shoulder
definitely
won't like you as much.
get a good break. But yeah, so that's the thing. You can do that, and if you want a big gun and you want to have a couple of them and you use it cross purpose for hunting, yeah, the difference is going to be on the back end, on you in recoil principally and energy on target. Right,
Yep.
a lot of the ballistics are similar. My 6XC and my 7mm aren't too far apart. A 6.5 Creedmoor and a 300 Win Mag aren't that far apart on the ballistic curves. But the difference is how hard the recoil is the weight of the bullet, in essence, pushing against you, and the amount of powder, and then the energy on target. You got a 200 grain bullet hitting instead of a 120 grain or 130 grain bullet, right?
Yeah.
So it's the energy on firing and on impact that are going to be the biggest difference. Uh, you have a little bit of wind, but primarily, I can shoot a 6mm short action cartridge that has better ballistics. You use less elevation than a 300 Magnum. Depends upon
Right.
some variables, but that's where we're at. And so, a guy that wants to shoot long range can start off with really simple, straightforward rifle and a cartridge. Uh, in fact, I started with my first rifle that was a fast twist designed to shoot long range was a 6.5 Creedmoor. I kind of figured out that the rifles that I had weren't going to cut it, and so I bought it, and it cost me like $225 after the rebate for the rifle, right? And I shot LRS Precision ammo, and that was the best ammo. It was shooting. It was the 130 burgers that I
Yep.
had you load up for me, and then I bought Federal Gold Medal Burger Match ammo. I bought Hornady ELDM match ammo, and I bought SIG Shooting Sierra match ammo, and every one of those shot half MOA or better, right? And I went out to Evolved Ballistics, South Hills Ranch with Paul Butler, and we chronoed your ammo. We had SD of or ES of like 22 or 25, I can't remember exactly. And I shot a sub MOA group at 1,000 yards. The first time I'd ever shot that far. I'd shot and been behind my rifle and had broken it in, but the whole rifle, everything cost me $800. I bought a used SWFA 12 power, and I bought a used Accu stock from Savage, so I'd have a stiffer stock than the cheap plastic Tupperware. So I had $800, 20 MOA rail, and I was hitting sub MOA groups at 1,000 yards.
Yep.
With we didn't have a whole lot of wind. It was interesting. My vertical was about probably 8 to 9 inches, and my horizontal was 10 to 12. Right, so it's probably more than one MOA on the horizontal, but that horizontal was uh, a factor of the ammo. Uh, just ES and everything else probably. So again, if a guy's just getting into it, you can start out less than $1,000. That was a big thing on the internet. Oh, can I get 1,000 yards with $1,000? That's so
Yeah.
tired. Because absolutely you can. You just got to choose the right stuff.
Right. And that is a good point, and I'm sure we'll touch on that a lot more in a different video. But you can absolutely get to 1,000 yards with very inexpensive stuff. Does all of our custom guns make it that much more accurate, or is it not? Not really. I mean, yes, they're
No.
very accurate rifles, but the bigger things they do is how smooth the actions are, the way the triggers feel, stuff like that. The barrels are what are really big, unless you get into like the really expensive custom stuff where you're getting quarter MOA or better groups.
Yeah, where you really put it in. I love Savage AccuTrigger. You can turn those things down really light, and that's what I shot the sub MOA groups with. Do I like my Huber 2-stage trigger? Do I like the feel of it? Yeah. Is it funner to get behind and shoot? Yeah. Do I like my diamonds from Trigger Tech? Oh yeah, so much better. I love the feel, the shoe, the everything. But does it make me shoot that much better? Not really, because I'm like a half MOA shooter, and my Savage did it, as do my custom actions. My barrels are easier to clean now, whether they're customs as opposed to Savage. And like you said, we'll cover it later, but if you get into a match, it's a lot different with me running a nucleus with a 70-degree throw than my Savage. Okay, with I can stay on target, I can open and close the bolt without getting off target and things like that. So those things make a difference. But if you're just going to plop down and shoot long range, you just need to buy the rifle designed to shoot long range and have factory ammo, and you could literally torque it all together and go shoot 1,000 yards the first day you get your rifle. No problem. Within the first 20 rounds, you could probably shoot to 1,000 yards. Honestly.
Oh yeah, I've taken people who have never shot before past 200 or 300 yards with, and I've actually got one of the guys I'm going shooting with at the match tomorrow. First time he ever shot was with a Ruger Precision rifle and 6 mil, and I had him hitting 940 yard 12-inch plate within 10 rounds.
Yeah, if you find somebody that will go out and shoot with you, it's amazing. I was at the range. I'd zeroed my rifle. I'd confirmed my dope. I had 4 or 5 hits on the steel at 817 yards, and it's just kind of boring the regularity that you can do it with. And I didn't have ammo to practice. I was actually practicing with my 22 trainer off of a ladder. But there were some guys next to me, and I struck up a conversation, and they were trying to figure out why their Mosin was right on at 300, but high at 100 and 200, and going through that. So I talked with them, and they were great kids. Their grandpa had given them the rifle and a bunch of ammo, and I'm like, hey, you want to come over here and shoot? The first kid laid down, and I'm like, take the shot, breathe. I walked him through everything, had him do some dry presses on the trigger so he knew what it felt like, and one shot hit the target, at 817 yards. I'm like, hey, you want to, they called a ceasefire. His buddy came up, and I'm like, all right, go ahead, get down there. And he shot, but I missed the wind call. The wind had picked up a little bit, and so I missed the wind call. So he shot off the edge of the plate. And I'm all right. Well, you got to hold the right edge and send it. That's what I said. The classic, right? Hold right edge and send it. And second shot, he hit 817 yards. So if you pick the rifle for the tool for the job, then you're going to have success more often than not. So, all right. Well, I think we've covered that. I think it's time for me to head off to a date night, and then I got to load some ammo for my match in the morning. Like they say, fresh ammo is the best ammo, right, Randy?
Yep, I'm actually in the middle of doing that right now. I'm taking a break for this.
Yeah. Well, I had to turn off my oops. Here we go. Oh, my ultrasonic cleaner here. Oh, this is hot. Got the heat going on it. But cleaning off my suppressor.
Nice.
So, yeah, busted a bunch of carbon off of it. That's a whole nother conversation we can have about carbon on your muzzle brakes and suppressors and the effects once it builds up. But all right, well, we'll see you later, Randy. Good luck tomorrow.
Take it easy. Good luck. And I'll talk to you later.